Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior web headmaster and Task Force X leader, Jarod Bachman Stubbs. And joining me, as always, is the Rick Flag to my Amanda Waller, at least on this episode. I said always. He's not always on here. It's just force of habit to say always, because normally it's the same people on every show. But Devin's here. Devin's on this one.
Ooh, I like being Rick Flag. I like his character a lot more in this movie than the last movie. So, like,
Yeah.
I'll take it. Actually, as far as everyone they brought back, like, I feel like they just had more fun with them this time around. But
Absolutely. We're not going to get too spoilery just yet. We're going to try to do a little bit of spoiler free up top.
We'll creep up to it.
Yeah, but we are here with our review of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, sequel/reboot to the 2016 oft-maligned comic book movie of the DCEU. And Devin and I have seen it. I'm 2 viewings deep. Devin, how many you got?
Just one. It was probably 2 nights ago, 2 or 3 nights ago that I watched it. So, like, still pretty fresh. Haven't exactly wanted to watch it a second time quite yet. I feel like in a couple months.
Chomping at the bit. I was chomping at the bit to get back to this movie after I finished it.
Yeah. I like the movie overall. Like, I had a lot of fun, and like conceptually about the Suicide Squad, I love that we're at the point now cinematically that like B-list, C-list heroes or villains, like, I don't know, I feel like ever since Guardians, when they proved they could make it work between like Rocket Raccoon and like people we don't know before and just putting them in a group, like, not to say like, you know, but whatever, no comparisons, but like, I love that we're at that point now whenever like they're just like, we'll pull this character, we'll use this character, we'll just have like an amazing cast, like a super fun cast. And like, I don't know, like conceptually, I loved this movie and I liked most of it.
I absolutely loved it. I loved every second of this movie. I only have one real complaint. It is a complaint that I think affects a lot of the movie, but it's something that we can't quite talk about in a spoiler-free section of this review. However, I loved it. I was blown away by it. I was very just impressed with like every little nook and cranny. In terms of performances, there is not a single bad performance in the bunch.
The cast was phenomenal.
Yes. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people make this point across the interwebs and in other reviews I've seen of the movie. The whole how has Margot Robbie only played Harley Quinn 3 times? That like it, like she is so at home and so good in this role that it feels like she has been playing Harley Quinn as long as Robert Downey Jr. has been playing Tony Stark, or as long as Chris Evans has been playing Captain America, or what have you, right? That she is just so very much Harley Quinn.
She gets it. Yeah,
she gets it. You know, calling attention to her specifically there. I actually look forward to the Peacemaker TV show now.
Yeah, I was touching on that. I really don't like whenever before a movie has even come out, they announce a spinoff for a character. I really, really, really don't like that. It feels unjustified, and it's just like gratuitous. Assumptions are being made. But like, John Cena freaking killed it. Like, Peacemaker's one of my favorite characters in this whole movie. I'm like very excited to watch his show now, and just like I feel like it'll be just as much fun as this movie was. And like, I don't know if they're gonna get into like all like the lore with like the helmet and like possibly it containing souls or whatever. Like, I don't know what direction they're gonna go with it, but like I'm on board, like to say the least.
I am too. You know, the thing that like always, how do I put this? With these comic book adaptations, you know, I very much get into this weird habit of anything, an adaptation of anything, where it's like, I like when they get weird. I like when they go to that obscure place. But like, I also get annoyed when there's a character who is meant for the C-list, whom, because of an appearance in a movie, kind of like weirdly skyrockets in popularity. You know, like Deadshot, for example. You know,
You mean like you don't like the movies making the character popular?
I get weird about the way that they become like weirdly a staple in everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know quite how to explain it, aside from like, you know, when the first Suicide Squad came out, you know, the way that we kind of pretended that Deadshot and Katana and Killer Croc and, you know, Boomerang weren't C and D listers. You know what I mean? We're like,
I hear you. I'm a little confused. Like, do you not like that they're in the lineup, or like?
I like that they're in the lineup. I think that it's something like this, like with the Suicide Squad. You know, there's like the point is that you can't do the Suicide Squad with a lineup of like Bane, Deathstroke, Reverse Flash,
because you don't want to kill them off.
Cheetah, because you can't kill them off because they're mainstays in each respective hero's rogues gallery.
So you don't like that there's like disposable characters.
The disposable characters who then become super popular and therefore cannot serve the function of the Suicide Squad, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I hear you.
Any way at all.
It does. It's like they give them status to like take it away almost. And it kind of like, it's a weird, I understand what you're saying.
It was just, I don't know. I just have a weird like relationship with like the way the characters kind of get marketed, especially like whenever, you know, somebody's comic book counterpart starts to emulate the movie version as well.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that to say, this is the perfect lineup for one of these movies. Like, if you're going to adapt the Suicide Squad, and Harley Quinn has become a mainstay, you know, through the 20 teens and the New 52, Harley Quinn has become like as much of a staple of the Suicide Squad as Rick Flag is, and Deadshot and Boomerang. And again, like I'm not articulating the point I wanted to as well as I meant to, and I'm just going to leave it there. But this is the perfect lineup, you know. And like, and let me put it this way: it feels weird saying that there's a Peacemaker TV show.
Yeah,
like Peacemaker on paper should, I don't say shouldn't, but like he's only able to stand up on that. I kind of, you know, like it would be like making a spin-off TV show just about Kraglin and Guardians of the Galaxy. Like what? Like you're like, this is like at that point it's like this is completely for the MCU, and is not really like meant to be a product of the comic book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like it's almost like that weird, like whenever the Sony email leak happened, you know, it almost feels like we're going to make a Sinister Six movie. Like, what the hell do you do with a movie where the main characters are the Sinister Six? That kind of thing. Where it's like, what are you even doing here? Unless you're like building it off the back of this like very specific character, very niche character who's now going to become incredibly important in a lot of comic book stories from now on because Peacemaker is like hella marketable now because he's John Cena. And
I feel like,
does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
I feel like they wanted like to have an actor in a show that was very like the Suicide Squad movie was, like little like naughty, little raunchy, violent, funny, and they were just like, okay, how do we like mold this character to fit the show that we want to make? And especially whenever they announced it before the movie even came out, like it was very like it feels very calculated. It was just like, I don't know. I think they just want to expand their like whatever so bad that they're just trying to like, I don't know. They're trying really hard to make a mold for it, and then like hope the movie does.
Warner Brothers, good job greenlighting something that wasn't Batman.
Yeah,
you know, good like legitimately. There's a non-Batman reliance here, and I appreciate it. All throughout this movie, really, because like the first Suicide Squad, like beyond like obviously like, there was the Batfleck cameos. Like that movie really leaned on Batman. Like most of the members of the Suicide Squad are Batman.
Yeah,
villains.
I feel like they were trying really hard
2016
to like interweave everything and make everything seem like it has like such glorious purpose or whatever. Like it's all like it's. But now they're realizing like, okay, what we're doing isn't working.
Yeah.
Or hasn't worked out well, like at least by the numbers and like public opinion. So I feel like they're just like totally flipping the script. Like, oh, you think the DC universe is too dark? Well, an octopus is going to play the drums in Aquaman. We're going to be blowing up people's heads and like having crazy villains in these movies, and you know what? You're going to like it by the end of the day. And like,
yeah, no, this is, I you know, nameplate. This might be the best movie in the DCEU, like carte blanche. Like end of discussion, end of the day. It's boom. This is the best. Like I don't think you outdo this, in my opinion.
Yeah. The tone wasn't like my favorite thing. It was very fun. I had a lot of fun with the movie.
I really liked the tone. I really,
I don't know. I like when the hero's journey is taken, I guess, like a little more seriously. And like there's actually like exploration besides like one little scene that like gives you like hella backstory on these people's lives and like humanizes them. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying these characters weren't developed. I'm just saying like the tone isn't like exactly my favorite for a superhero movie. I said like it was a great movie and I had a lot of fun with it, but like, I don't know. I think Aquaman or the first Wonder Woman would probably be. I think the first Wonder Woman is probably my favorite DC EU movie.
There's something. How do I put it? I will say, and this has come up before. I don't know if we've had this conversation before. I'm not a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
No, me neither.
I think that tonally, like, the humor is out of control, and I don't mean that in a good way. And I don't mean that in terms of too many jokes. I mean that almost none of them land. Like, the first act and a half is kind of rough. And once you cross that threshold, like, in my opinion, from Yondu, Rocket, and Groot escaping the Ravager mutiny on, that top tier MCU. Everything before that's not great, though.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, at least. And there are moments where the bathos, one of the biggest critiques of the MCU is that, like, they can't let a moment be serious for too long before there's a joke. That, you know, you have the, you know, reveal that Ego killed Star-Lord's mom, right? Star-Lord blasts him into oblivion, and then he morphs into David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
Right? And then like it's that serious immediately followed by a joke, serious immediately followed by a joke that like makes that is kind of the issue I have with that movie's tone. I think here James Gunn struck the balance I wish Goteg 2 had, where from the jump they like it I just think the tone's better melded here because James Gunn's really good at being both really earnest and also silly at the same time. You know, like everything's a joke, but also it's very heartfelt. And that is the biggest strength of both Guardians movies, in my opinion, is it's all silly, but also it comes from the heart. And I think that is another thing that the Suicide Squad has. And
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think that it is best on display here. I think that is the strongest. Like, that's why I like the tone a lot. Is that there are, and it's perfect for the Suicide Squad. It's perfect for, you have this lineup that is so that varies from super soldier to guy who's super good at being a soldier to Harley friggin' Quinn to the King Shark to Polka Dot Man, Ratcatcher 2, you know, Captain Boomerang, you know, Mongal with, you know, and they even make the joke earlier in the movie. Is she a god? Is she an alien? I don't know. She's strong. Okay, cool. There's just a lot of really good people to have those kinds of, well, what the hell is going on here? You know, in the same way, it's like, I am Groot. And then you have Rocket, like very hyper animated kind of way responding to Groot's I am Groot's. And the situation's getting more and more ridiculous, you know? Oh, hey, I need that guy's arm. Why? I just wanted to steal it. Type humor, you know, but it's also partnered with We Are Groot.
Yeah.
And that exists in the same movie. And there's a really good cohabitation of those seemingly two very different things to combine.
Yeah.
Because on paper, and I think a lesser screenwriter would lean on either this is incredibly ridiculous and I'm going to remind you every 30 seconds this is ridiculous so that you don't take any of this seriously. Or it would take everything that's happening very seriously. Right? Like, I feel like those two things are really hard to meld successfully. And that's part of one of the big critiques of the MCU, something that situation depending, can understand or agree with. That sometimes you have a really good moment and a really good scene and a lot of emotion behind it. You don't need to chase it with a joke.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Like the moment will work without humor.
Yeah. This movie is really good at everything being both incredibly earnest and ridiculous and hilarious. I've been rambling. In terms of, before we move into spoilers here, would you recommend people go see it? If people are just hanging out to hear our thoughts?
Yeah. My buddy that I watched it with, I actually ended up falling asleep during the movie. And like he's not a very big superhero movie guy. Like, it's not really his forte and things like that. And like, he did fall asleep. And when he woke back up, he's like, I missed the ending, but like what I saw was like a 4 out of 10. And like, I understood what he meant. Cause like, he didn't care for the characters. like at all. Like I think like the goofy nature and like like anyone could die at any second and like no one's taking anything really seriously outside of like when everything's really serious. I feel like he was difficult for him to like get on board and just accept a lot of things and like have fun with it. So I get that, but like it is a funny movie that's just gonna like not leave you like your jaw on the floor, but it's definitely gonna be like, holy shit, like they're doing that in this movie, like they're doing this in this movie, and it's working. Like I think the movie has a lot of redeeming qualities that like the average consumer would have like a good time with the movie. So yes, I would recommend this movie.
As would I. We're going to talk about spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, log off, go away, click off.
My biggest issue with the movie is I wish these deaths were more spread out. That is my like only like really like stomp my foot, you missed a big opportunity.
Yeah.
Like because like some of them worked. I really enjoyed it. You know, like I really enjoyed that first like ambush on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with like, oh, Blackguard sold us out. We're made. Bah, blow off Pete Davidson's face.
Yeah.
It was a great scene. It was phenomenal. I wish more members of the squad survived later into the fight. Or into the mission, rather. You know, I wish that there could have like I understand the how do I put it? There was the, you know, ever since Fandom, when we got our first look at this, the immediate speculation of this is who's going to make it to the end because this is who we're seeing the most scenes of. What didn't work for me with the way that everybody kind of jokingly dies unceremoniously in the beginning, which again, great decision. I think you cut that body count by half.
Okay.
Like,
I at least would have liked to have seen more people do more stuff before they died.
Yeah, I wish Captain Boomerang. I understand killing Boomerang as soon as they did to just be like, even the people who came back from the first movie are not safe.
Yeah,
as we learned, you know,
very quickly.
Again, I'm sorry if you're still here and you haven't seen the movie. This is your last chance. As we know from Rick Flag, you know, like just because you were in the first one doesn't mean you're safe. Like I wish Boomerang could have made it closer to the end.
Yeah.
And maybe lose, you know, because you only have 3 actual members of the squad who are returning from the first movie in Flag, Boomerang, and Harley Quinn. Like, let Flag die in his fight with Peacemaker, and then like have Starro take out Boomerang. You know, have Starro latch a thing onto his face, and they have to fight Boomerang. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would have been interesting. You know, maybe keep Boomerang around a little longer. Let detachable kids stick around a little longer. Yeah, I like the use of Michael Rooker with like having Savant, you know, run away. You know, I think Weasel dying when he dies is good. But all things considered, I think there's a couple members who die on the beach that you could have milked them a little bit more. Like, I think we could have had more fun with TDK. And
there's so many opportunities.
Him die in some weird, unceremonious way. And again, I think maybe create a situation where Boomerang makes it to the end, and you know, whenever Ratcatcher 2 is like, you know, cover your faces, that he's like, you know, not paying attention to what she's saying. and he gets a Starro on his face, and Starro's like mind controlling Boomerang, and like the squad has to put Boomerang down. I think that
I like
would
that idea. I like that idea a lot, and like I wish there was more opportunities, because when you have this many characters on screen at once that do have like cool, fantastical abilities and things we haven't seen yet, like new characters for most people, like I almost wish we had like more moments of like an Avengers style fight where you get like those big, nice one shots of like people either doing things individually and kicking ass or people working together collectively and things like that. Like, it doesn't have to be like so working together-y, because like they're not always like a team. Like they kind of get plucked and choose depending on what the mission is or whatever. But I think you're right. They could have milked out like more of the fun, like the potential of the characters. Like I know that there's C-list, I know that there's a Suicide Squad, and it like sets a tone whenever everyone dies like immediately. And like, I don't know. I think you're right though. You could have had more fun before just like Xing someone out entirely.
Well, and part of my reasoning for that is that in Act 1 and in Act 3 is when we start losing squad members. Act 2, for all intents and purposes, about the characters we care about, is completely bloodless.
Yeah.
And I
like watching him kick ass.
I like watching him kick ass too. So I think keeping TDK around a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Actually see him get killed. You know? I don't necessarily know like what members of the squad other than TDK you'd keep around. Because I like Harley Quinn and the Javelin thing. So like let Javelin still get killed. You know. There's options. I just think that Act 2, and a lot happens in the second act. You know, this movie's very middle heavy. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But the second act is a predominant part of the movie, and that's where none of our like squad mates die. And I want more to die there. I want it to be a little bit more chaotic, that like literally let the midpoint of the movie set in, and by then no one's died. Okay, we're about to realize you have to go on this rescue mission to save Harley Quinn. Like, have TDK get killed because of the Harley rescue mission.
Yeah.
Like, he screws something up and dies there. I don't know. And again, I don't want to make it sound like it's a failing on the movie's part. I just think it's a potential missed opportunity.
I like the missed opportunity angle because it does make it feel like the second unit of the Suicide Squad was for some reason so much more like stronger and powerful. I know they had Nanawe and like Ratcatchers ended up like basically saving everyone at the end of the movie for the most part.
Well, plus like, you know, you had Waller sending in that full frontal assault to distract every Corto Maltese soldier. And, you know, on paper, the Alpha squad that Rick Flag was leading is probably a stronger team. And the only reason it completely falls apart the way it does is because Mongal goes apeshit.
Yeah.
You know?
That helicopter really fucked up a lot of stuff.
Yeah. She jumps on that helicopter. It causes a blast. It causes a blast that breaks up the team so that both Harley and Flag get captured, blows up Boomerang, kills Mongal, and, you know, basically paves the way for everybody else to die. And it's what spooks Savant into trying to run away. Mongal gets almost the entirety of Alpha Team killed. So, like, if more of them made it past that point, you know, at that point, like, you have a team that's way overpowered too. Yeah. Like, going in there, like, again, we don't see Alana Mongal and how she's portrayed here, but her pulling down the chopper, like, okay, we have another like super strength person, so we got her and King Shark, on the same team, plus, you know, Bloodsport and Captain Boomerang
and Peacemaker.
So you have and Peacemaker, you know, and Polka Dot Man. So you have like these like 3-4 like ranged heavyweights. So like that's just a storm of death. And then you have these, like the tanks in Nanaue and Mongal. Then you throw in Harley, who's like a straight up brawler, and Rick Flag, who's like the actual like military mind. Become one hell of a team. That's not even taken into consideration Ratcatcher 2. So I
when you say it like that, I understand.
Balancing.
Yeah, when you say it like that, I understand those decisions more.
Yeah,
I still think you could have milked out some, even just for humor
that's why
or character purposes.
But detachable kid. That's why I'm saying I think you let TDK get past the beach. We've harped on that point for a minute.
It's a good point.
I really like the symbols of the birds and the rats. Like, I think that like there's a really fun theme and symbol there that I like a lot. I feel like, and this is one of those, like, I can't wait to, I want to talk to James Gunn about this movie so much. Like, James, if you're watching, DM us. I'd love to talk to you about this.
We'd love to talk to you.
I feel like the birds are a symbol of a naive, innocent happiness. In the way that Savant kills one at the beginning of the movie, and it immediately like comes back to like kind of eat at his corpse. In the way that he is, like, he's enjoying his brief moments of freedom there, and then it comes back where like he's been freed in a way by his death. That bird comes back around, and whenever Harley is being offered up to the Corto Maltesian president, that like she's having the rose tinted glasses moment of loving him inside of the bird cage and all of that. That like, and the way that the general talks about like, and he always loved his birds. That like the way the birds are kind of like it's a traditional cliche naive kind of like happiness and love that is very quickly done away with by the uglier parts of the world, in which we see kind of manifest in Savant killing the one with the bouncy ball. And I like the way that the rat and the rats represent the uglier, more complex, but more honest love and happiness. That like it becomes a symbol of like accepting the love around you because it's coming from a weird, unlikely, and lowly place, as Ratcatcher 1 kind of puts it in that flashback to Ratcatcher 2, in the way that like it literally swarms Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Like he's swarmed by that love, and he just he tucks and rolls, and he just has to let it wash over him. And by the end of the movie, we see it come full circle when he just kind of reluctantly pets Sebastian, when he just kind of like lets it finally hit him. And I really want to know how intentional the kind of like implied symbol of those two things are, because like it's a motif that does not feel accidental.
No, it's pretty common.
Because it keeps coming back to birds and rats, and that birds kind of don't like. There's kind of an implied sense of disingenuousness with the birds, and the rats are a more pure, legitimate love type metaphor. Again, those of you who don't watch Movie Club, this is the your weekly dose of me trying to make something way deeper than it actually is.
I think it's a good theory. I mean, like based off of like when the birds and the rats like appear throughout the film, I feel like they in a way help carry a lot of like the humanity in the film.
Yeah.
Between like not only those two different types of love, but just like I don't know, in a way, like like the whole squad is like a bunch of rats, and like face values like horrid, unlovable,
lowly,
like
yeah.
and then it's very clear. I think that's one thing this movie does so well is humanizing like every single character. Like between the interactions with each other, what drives them, like conflicts of interest, like especially whenever Peacemaker switches, like and like Rick Flag, like being just like I will not be a puppet for the government anymore. Whenever they're doing like I just it all felt so like I believe it, I'm with them, I understand them. And so yeah, I don't really think like as far as symbolism in movies goes, like I don't really think that's far off at all.
I also it's just the thing that I love about this Suicide Squad team in particular is, with the exception of Peacemaker, all of them are villains.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, these aren't villains like the Joker.
No, they're not like evil.
Who will indiscriminately, exactly. They may be morally compromised, but these aren't, they're not evil people.
Yeah.
For the most part. Like Bloodsport is a trained assassin. He kills for money, but he more often than not is going to be sent against somebody who warrants being hired to kill, you know? Like at least one would assume. And a lot of the time that like with this kind of comic booky bullshit, you know, you're either being sent to fight a superhero or you're getting sent to whack another piece of shit. You know, and Harley Quinn is Harley Quinn and how complicated she is as a character. You know, Ratcatcher 2 was just trying to rob a bank. We don't necessarily know what King Shark did wrong. He may not, like, even if he ate some random person, he probably didn't understand what he was doing wrong.
Yeah, like, especially him. And, like, back with the birds, like, I don't know, that, like, naivety to him. And like lack of understanding, like like an underdeveloped brain and like bird, like like new dumb friends. Like there's an innocence to him. Yeah. He's like, I've never had friends before. Like I will be your friend and I won't eat you. Like none of it feels. Yeah, mustache. Like even whenever Peacemaker did turn. It's because like that's what his mission was, like his own mission.
Here's why I think Peacemaker is the only like real evil person on the team. Is that like, Polka Dot Man, this by virtue of like his comic book counterpart, he's normally the kind of guy who tries to rob a bank and gets his dick kicked in by the Batman. All of that stuff, Harley, whatever. Peacemaker outright says, I do not care whom I have to kill to attain my definition of liberty and peace. And again, that's also a complex conversation about the politics of this movie. Which like, I look forward to a more qualified person talking about that because I'm not that person. But the way that it frames Peacemaker's ultra nationalism against Rick Flag's patriotism and the way that those two things are different, that Peacemaker is this ultra nationalist, I can't let people find out about the truth of the evils of our government because if they realize it's evil, it was all for nothing. Where Rick Flag goes, I don't serve the government. I serve the people whom the government is also meant to serve. And the difference in those two worldviews, and that Peacemakers is inherently oppressive. And that's something I find very interesting about the rest of the members of the squad, because they're all, even if they weren't in prison, at the mercy of somebody else. Like, it's like with Bloodsport as well. Like, you know, what's he in jail for? He put Superman in the ICU. Where did he get a kryptonite bullet?
It's an interesting
I'll take 3 guesses that he's bald. I'll take 3 guesses that the person who gave it to him was bald. And that he was put in a situation where he had to make a choice between, am I going to risk it all by trying to take out Superman? Or am I going to take, or am I not going to take this massive paycheck, likely from Lex Luthor?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Everybody here has had their choices taken away in some capacity by their circumstance, by the world, by the life they lived before being put on Task Force X. At least the characters who matter, who don't die on the beachfront. Peacemaker is the choice taker. He takes the choices away.
I think part of that was unwillingly,
insidious to me.
I think part of that was unwillingly. Like, his mission was to make sure that those records don't leave, and he also has like a bomb in his head. Apart from like what's also in his head of like the delusions of peace and justice and liberty and freedom and all these other things.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of feel like, in a way, like, him knowing what he might have to do, I feel like he was like maybe rationalizing it in his own head, like, throughout the movie. He's already set in stone. He's like, I will not let things happen that I think like prove what his mindset is, that like something could happen and take away from the peace. And so like, I definitely think like if Amanda Waller gave him that rather specific mission of like securing all that, she probably was just like, you know, if these files do get out, like, it'll be hysteria. We won't have peace. We'll have war, like a civil war in the country. And like the United States will be like a target for the rest of the world because they were behind the whole Starro thing. Like, I don't think he's insidious in the way that he'll do anything. But that's like,
and that's what I'm getting at.
Okay,
it's like
cool.
Ratcatcher 2. Ratcatcher 2.
Yeah,
like,
that scene.
He says it himself. She's like, why are you, like, I already told you, I'll give you the thing. Don't worry about it. I'm thorough. Like, there's a part of him where it's like, that he is the only person on the squad who does see himself as the hero. And like, that's what makes him dangerous and like more scary to me, if that makes sense. Because like I said, like, it was that, like, you know, I'm thorough. I'm here to do my job. Everybody else, you know, Bloodsport is aware of the fact that he almost killed Superman. And odds are, if you're trying to kill Superman, you're the dick in that situation. Maybe not this universe's version of Superman, but we'll get into that. You know, it's really, there's a really interesting dynamic there. On the topic of the Starro experiments, my boy doesn't miss. My boy doesn't miss. Peter Capaldi, scene stealer. Every time that man opened his mouth, scene stealer. Every time. If you don't shut up, I'll send a rat up your ass. I'm afraid my response might be different than what you were expecting. Like, you know, like, oh, you fucking Americans and your pearl clutching. He is so good at everything he does. He's my favorite doctor, and he might be like top 3 favorite characters in this whole movie.
Oh, wow. I mean, I liked his performance a lot. Like, I felt right for the movie, and like for that part, like, it all felt right.
I love Peter Capaldi so much. Everything he does. There's this one. I haven't seen it in forever, but I've seen it before. I want to see if I can find it. Peter Capaldi swearing at American. Hold on. Can you hear the video that's playing right now?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, then I'm not going to try to play it into the stream because it might not work. But anyway, love Peter Capaldi. He's in this one political show that I keep telling myself I'm going to start watching because it's him, and I keep forgetting to try to find it. I think it's called like In the Loop or something like that. But yeah, no, absolute scene stealer there. I love Capaldi, and I love Starro as a villain. I think Starro is like the perfect, like the thing with the Suicide Squad, and I heard this complaint a lot about the 2016 movie, that sending the Suicide Squad to deal with a threat like the Enchantress gone wild, taking over the city, they're dealing with a magical threat, that like you could make that work. But for the most part, the Suicide Squad being C and D list characters typically, you have to match them up against a threat that they can handle in theory, that just outclasses them, probably because of numbers and resources. Like,
yeah,
the threat of the Enchantress, it outclasses the Suicide Squad to the point of it being weirdly mismatched. And the only reason they're able to succeed at the end is through like really weird plot contrivances, and also they're like too supernatural.
Yeah, like Diablo was huge in that, or else I don't think they would have had a chance.
Yeah, like Diablo like does like his like super move, and then they're able to use Katana's magical sword.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why they're able to defeat Enchantress.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of people talking about like this is the kind of story like the Suicide Squad is meant to be sent in that very, the United States government and military during the Cold War, where it's like, oh, hey, look at this South American country that just like democratically elected a communist. It'd be a shame if there was a coup. Like, that's kind of the story the Suicide Squad gets sent on most of the time. And I liked seeing that be exactly where they went with it. And it being like, this did such a better job at the twist that the first one tried to do.
Wait, which twist?
The first one
of like the villain?
Like, they were sent in to get Waller out of Midway City.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And this one does that twist so much better, where it's like, no, Waller lied to you. You're here to make sure that this building, that you're not here to necessarily destroy the building. You're here to destroy the file and make it look good.
Yeah.
And like this movie does that twist so much better.
I think it's a lot better in that sense because like it was manipulation, but also because Starro even feels human. Like he was pulled out of space, experimented on for 30 years. That's like the first thing he says. It's like, you've tortured me for 30 years. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And his last words.
I was happy floating across the starlight. Like you feel for a giant fucking star fish thing with an eyeball, and like, I don't know, it worked really well. I had no idea how the squad was going to take down this thing. Like, I had no idea how that was going to work. I'm like, they're going to like I didn't think it was like possible. And it turns out Ratcatcher like summoned what I have to assume is like a couple million rats.
That's a conservative estimate.
Yeah, you're right. Probably several million. Like, they completely engulfed Starro in rats. And then once Harley Quinn, like opens the eye and then the rats get inside of him, like it's a lot easier to take down, and like I don't know, I
Which
liked
then
it a
again
lot.
goes back to if more members of the squad were alive by the time that scene rolls around, Starro's probably not that hard to take out with a squad of like what, more than a dozen.
But if Starro, starfish their faces and they're fighting each other at the same
Then there's
time, like I
also
think it could go both ways. But I also like real quick, I loved in that scene whenever Bloodsport was like the Captain America, like Harley, take the high ground. Clint, I want you on that rooftop. Like Hulk smash, Nanawe, monster num num. Like it felt very like yes, like he's not a bad guy. Like he's not a bad guy.
You
He's
are a bad guy, but you are not bad guy.
Bad guy. Yeah. I also love that Amanda Waller got freaking golf club to the side of the head.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me in movies whenever the character like in power is like following orders, but to the point of like her own tyrannical like dictatorship over these people. And like she will kill you where you stand with the press of a button. And she was going to, even though what they were doing would have saved, I mean, if it worked, assuming at the time they would work, would save like most of the city and like so many countless lives. Just like that risk
Who knows
of like
Starro's, and that's the thing, is that because again, this is another thing that goes back to your choices being taken away from you and what you turn into when you lose those choices. And I think Starro and Peacemaker have a lot in common, where it just turns into this like, this is the conclusion you arrived at. Everybody else is dealing with these like really upsetting, either self-loathing or they go in this direction or that direction, or, some people like Ratcatcher really hold on to their hope and their humanity. And then Starro's like, this city's mine. I'm going to level it for what the Thinker did to me.
Yeah.
And to what Corto Maltese and the United States did to me.
Yeah, like you tortured me for 30 years.
Stops.
Yeah, you tortured me for 30 years, but in doing so made me incredibly powerful, and now I'm going to unleash it on you. And like I don't know, like I wasn't mad at like any motivation from any character during this movie, and I think that's incredibly hard to do.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really easy to let a character's development or sense of humanity or whatever just like basically be unwritten just because, they will probably die. But no, like they gave Polka Dot Man like sustenance before he died, as little as it was. It was like, he's not a bad guy either. Like his mom was a horrible person. And like, he has this, like, I never knew anything about Polka Dot Man. So whenever he was just like, I have a interdimensional disease or whatever he said.
It's not in the comic books. That was a James
all right, well, that
Gunn
makes me
original.
feel better. That makes me feel better. But like, anyways, like
he's not that cool in comic books.
No. But it was really cool to have like the surprise C-list character be very powerful and also be motivated. Like, I think James Gunn is amazing at like balancing out the time for arcs with characters and then having like the teen character arc build as well. I think that's so hard to do. I think that's so like
he has
complicated.
A talent for ensemble movies.
I think he's just like one of those guys that like does not take himself very seriously, but takes what he does seriously.
Yeah,
and like
I think there's truth to that.
Like I think he does want to have like a lot of fun, and like he's just like, you know what, people are gonna die. We're gonna have an awesome cast. It's gonna be hilarious. We're not gonna spend too much time on the shit that doesn't really matter. Like we're gonna use every minute of screen time to help tell this story. And like make it fun too. And like Taika Waititi being Ratcatcher and just like so
and the voice
simple.
of Starro. He also provided.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Starro.
That's cool. Like, I don't know. I like that they didn't harp on things for too long. I feel like there were some points in time in the movies where it just like eventually towards the end of the scene, I would feel like it's dragging, but then the scene would end. And I'd be like, okay, cool. like when they're all on the bus and Ratcatcher like says something, I don't remember what she said to Bloodsport, and she's looking at out the window. I was like, monologue's coming, and then it came, and it was a little like okay, but like I appreciated how the monologue was executed, and like the bus window being like her memories. It was presented in a way I'd never seen before, so I cared more. I was like, just like from a technical aspect, it's something I'd never seen before, so I was like, that's really cool. And then the story that was going inside of it was also really cool.
Yeah.
So it was this layers of intriguing movie. I don't know.
No, yeah, I agree with you completely on that. And oh my goodness,
Yeah,
it's been a long day.
long day.
I really enjoy just everything. They're just so the execution of like all of the themes at play here. Again, about family, about love and self-worth,
Redemption,
but there's also something again very like the world is cruel and not everybody gets a happy ending. Like Rick Flag died in vain because the world does not get to learn about how Starro came to be. And the people who get starfished can't be saved. Like there's a heavy human cost in this movie.
mm-hmm.
That again, like, and that's something Gunn is really good at, is that you have to juxtapose this lesson in self-worth and in self-love that everybody learns, the way that Harley executes her, no pun intended, that lesson in self-love of the next time I felt myself, I realized I was falling for a bastard of a monster of a man, I'd fucking kill him.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get stuck with another Joker. Because he's already hard enough to shake off and so goddamn hard to kill. The next time one comes around, I'm going to kill him while I have a chance. And she does. And I love that.
Yeah.
That like Harley has learned to love herself. It's something I really liked that I noticed on Twitter. Is that between Suicide Squad 2016 and the Suicide Squad with Birds of Prey in the middle, she got her tattoo changed.
I didn't notice that.
And the tattoo,
I also didn't see Birds of Prey.
Oh my God, we need to change that.
Okay.
Honey, you're gonna love it. Is that like the and again, it doesn't happen on screen, but between her breaking up with the Joker in Birds of Prey, and now it has gone from that property of the Joker on her shoulder blade to property of no one.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Subtle and powerful at the same time.
Exactly. I retweet. When I first saw the image, I retweeted it. I was like, I am very aggressively happy that Harley has has like a different tattoo now.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, we don't. The movie doesn't force Margot Robbie into like the crazy Daddy's Little Monster outfit. So because of that, a lot of Harley's, like DCEU Harley's canonical tattoos are covered up. But like, who knows how many of those have also changed?
Mm-hmm. As she changes, for sure.
Like, how many has she gotten redone? Has she covered up? Like I'm pretty sure somewhere in this region there's a pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know she has a tattoo that says pudding.
She did at
like
least.
Other than,
I don't know if it's still there, but yeah.
So like almost certainly that one either got covered up or altered, like the one on her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Really great character choice. Also with Harley. Now, make no mistake, and I say this kind of to you because I know you haven't seen Birds of Prey now. Harley is no slouch in Birds of Prey. But this movie right here, I believe that this Harley Quinn cut her teeth fighting the Batman.
I didn't even notice her teeth were cut.
No, I meant
or like broken.
No, I mean like the expression. Like she earned her stripes as a fighter, going toe to toe with the Batman, and it shows.
She is incredibly skilled. I mean, she just picked up a javelin and went to work. Like, she like John Wicked her way out of that building. She was like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave now," and then left, and like didn't let anyone else do a damn thing about it. I love how a character born essentially as like made to just be Joker's companion has now become a character. Because like I like that the DCEU realized that like if the Joker's going to be the Joker, he literally can't really love Harley. Like he can't really be like that guy. It doesn't work for Joker. And so like it didn't work. But instead of just like dishing out Harley or whatever, like she's still around and they've made her like such a strong character. I think she's going to be around as Harley Quinn for a long time, man. Like
I really hope so. And I know Margot Robbie said she was like taking a break from Harley, but also like right around the time the movie started or whenever it came out, she was like, yeah, I'm done with my Harley Quinn break. But that's because Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad shot back to back pretty much for her. Plus COVID. But like Harley, okay, disclaimer before I say this and anybody takes this the wrong way. There is, if you're going to, in a traditional way, tell the story of the origin of the Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship, it is and always will be inherently toxic, disgusting, and abusive.
Yeah.
Like there is no version of the, again, like if we're going to take it like from Batman the Animated Series and adapt it and reinterpret and interpolate it in whatever different combination of ways you want to. If it is going to be the madman convinced her he loved her and then abused her into becoming his most deadly lieutenant, like it is inherently abusive. If you want to change the story up and it's like they're co-equal partners, but then at that point, it's not like the traditional version of Joker and Harley. But if you want to, if you adhere to any of the source material about the nature of their relationship, and you don't acknowledge or portray the Joker as being an abusive monster, you don't understand the source material, and I'm a little frightened by it.
Yeah.
That said, I really, on a character level, enjoy the Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship in the Suicide Squad. Or in Suicide Squad. I can't say the anymore. Unless we're referring to the one we're reviewing. Yes. I like it a lot. I like the way that you see that the Joker is this, like... And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love Jared Leto as the Joker. I think he gets too much hate. I think he brings a lot of really cool energy to the performance. Jared Leto's a jackass. I think David Ayer has his head up his ass a little bit. But, I mean, David Ayer's fine. I like it. Like, he's okay, but, like, whatever. I like Jared Leto's feelings. I like Jared Leto's Joker. And the acid wedding and, like, the way that you get a peek into his brain. That will you live for me? That's too easy. Will you die for me? Desire becomes surrender. Surrender becomes power. Like, the Joker almost has his own version of, like, the Sith code.
Yeah, I'm...
Like, you know, like,
I know
peace
exactly
is a lie. Like, you know, peace is a lie. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. Right? Like, that's the Sith code. The Joker... Like this version of the Jared Leto's Joker, like, is ideologically akin to a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
And he's kind of subject to his own cult of personality. And seeing Harley be seduced by that is incredibly fascinating. And seeing her go from a devotee of the Joker as an idea. Like I said, I made a TikTok about it months and months and months ago because somebody was talking about like this scene's really underrated and y'all don't want to admit it with the acid wedding. And like it shows Harley basically going from a leader in the cult of the Joker to falling out of love with him and recognizing him for the bastard that she is and finding her own self-love to enacting that self-love. And I just love the journey Harley goes on. And over the course of that journey, she has had to learn how to deal with Batman. And you see that in that fight out of the tower. And I love that. Like I'm watching her scrap with these guys and I'm like, this is somebody who's gotten a couple licks in on Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
You know, like that I love. And a similar thing can be said for Bloodsport, right? Like there's something like we were talking about the power scaling with the team,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that you have Polka Dot Man and his, you know, laser dots and Ratcatcher being able to summon an army of rats, and Nanaue has super strength. You got a member on the team who almost killed Superman. And you can say Kryptonite Bullet all day long. He shot him.
Yeah.
He shot Superman.
Very difficult thing to do.
Hey, Devin, how do people describe Superman's strength? Or his speed, rather? How did he describe his speed?
Faster than a speeding bullet.
Yeah. He shot the speeding bullet with a. Did James Gunn do that intentionally?
I wouldn't be surprised.
If he did, that is the most galaxy brain thing in this movie. That
as soon as you said it and paused, I was like,
speeding bullet. Oh my god. I need
smaller bullets.
Hold on. Whoa. He's so smart. That's genius. That's genius. I need that to be true, that he shot a speeding bullet. Oh. I'm going to watch the movie again. I'm going to watch it again when we're done. I can't because I got to start watching Titans because I made Travis a promise. Oh, God help me.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but James Gunn, shut up, Devin. The original pitch for the movie was a Suicide Squad versus Superman movie.
Is that so?
And now, like, apparently he still wants that idea if Warner Brothers will light, like, a sequel.
I can't say I'm very hopeful for that for Henry Cavill-related reasons.
I don't think it'd be a good movie.
Just going to say it. Unless we're going to go all the way in to a restoration of the Snyderverse and show us the dark timeline where Superman becomes a tyrant, I don't want to see any more evil Henry Cavill Superman. Like, anything but. Like, we're getting an animated Injustice movie. I'm happy with that. Do actual Injustice. And please, for the love of God, let evil Superman to rest.
Yeah.
You know, like, and most of that is like kind of drawn on by, you know, the same Looney Tunes who review bombed the movie and dragged it down from 100% to like 94. Because, you know, you had your people that the second they could submit reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. You know, they did what they did to Captain Marvel and The Last Jedi.
I do have some numbers.
Yeah?
I do. Totally forgot about this prior. But the Suicide Squad currently has a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb, a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a
Both scores
74%.
should be higher.
Yeah, 74% on Metacritic. The budget was $185 million, and it had a very underwhelming opening weekend with just under $27 million. I know that like theaters and HBO Max and everything, but like not a great look for a movie that's actually deserves higher than that. But
so I want to say, I want to talk about every single number you just said to me. Those review numbers are low because of Snyder cult people.
Yeah,
who did another review bombing campaign,
manipulated or influenced by like the butthurt fans of what was DC.
And they're not DC fans; they're Zack Snyder fans, and like,
yeah,
I'm glad you enjoy your boys' movies. Please stop doing this. The box office. I saw a really interesting article, and one moment. I'm just going to read directly from this article because I think it's a really interesting thing put out here. Have you ever heard of the Tomb Raider trap when discussing box office?
No.
Because this is the first I've ever heard of this phenomenon, and I think it's interesting. This is from Forbes, Scott Mendelson. Box office, Suicide Squad 2, which, gets Tomb Raider trap with poor $12.2 million Friday. COVID notwithstanding, making a huge mega budget sequel to Will Smith's Suicide Squad without Will Smith was always a doomed proposition. Regular readers can probably tell you about the, quote, Tomb Raider trap, namely when a much hyped and anticipated flick becomes a huge hit despite being bad to terrible, only for the much superior sequel to suffer commercially because an audience decided once bitten, twice shy. Classic examples include Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, which had a $156 million box office versus Tomb Raider's $274 million. Addams Family Values, which clocks in at $48 million versus $191 million for Addams Family. TMNT Out of the Shadows, clocking in at $245 million against the first Michael Bay TMNT at $485, and Angry Birds 2 having $147 versus the $352 million of first Angry Birds movie.
The original, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting theory to put forth. And I think that there's also, you can ascribe some truth to that with Birds of Prey, because Birds of Prey did not have a good box office either. But most people I know who have good opinions, I'm looking at a couple personal friends of mine who shared some very dooky DC movie takes with me about Birds of Prey. Most people I know, Birds of Prey is in their like top 3 to 5 for DC movies, rightfully so in my opinion. And Birds of Prey also suffered. And I think because people saw the Harley Quinn that everybody associated with the Daddy's Little Monsters shitty Suicide Squad movie, they passed. Mm-hmm. Also, the marketing and branding for Birds of Prey was also all over the place, with it being Birds of Prey and Birds of Prey or the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. And then 1 week after release, they pussied out and changed the name to Harley Quinn Birds of Prey.
I didn't know that.
So
that sucks.
We have this weird, like, pseudo Harley Quinn trilogy that has had diminishing returns, but I think a lot of that, due to the fact that Suicide Squad 2016, is agreed to not be great.
Mm-hmm.
Birds of Prey didn't do great. Because you had some dude bro fans who just didn't like it. It got review bombed by the Snyder bots. Whatever. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
During Birds of Prey's release. And now here we have, as Scott Mendelson puts it, the Tomb Raider trap, COVID, the HBO Max day and date release because of COVID, an R rating, which, as well as this movie utilizes its R rating in a really classy, like as classy as you can be with like a movie this raunchy, goofy, and stupid and silly, you know, like I don't know if I would have trusted Suicide Squad 2016 with an R rating.
It wouldn't have done much for the movie.
It wouldn't have done much for the movie, and would have done like I think it would have gone in the opposite direction.
Yeah, like
you can do more with an R rating. The more you do can sometimes be not great. You know what I mean?
And when the script was already as shaky as that movie's was, I don't feel like an R rating would have helped them.
Yeah. But again, anytime you have an R rating, you're losing a lot of people who can come see your movie. You know, it's why Deadpool and Logan were these like bombshell instances of R-rated movies doing amazingly at the box office. It Chapter 1 and 2 as well. So there's a lot of factors that are holding Suicide Squad back at the box office that I don't think, I don't think it is exactly fair to say that the Suicide Squad had a, quote, underwhelming opening weekend. Like, it made an unfortunate, not big amount of money. But again, 3 of those reasons have to do with COVID. You know, COVID is going on so people aren't leaving the house. COVID isn't going on so movie theaters are a place that some people just don't want to be in. Either because of restrictions scaring people away in both a like anti-vaxxer, anti-mask, like Looney Tune kind of way, or just I'm going to wait until movie theaters are back to normal to go kind of way. Yeah. Like I said, people being afraid to leave the house, movie theater regulations, and the day and date release that makes, you know, both times I saw the movie, and I want to see it in the theater at some point soon, but like both times I've watched the movie have been on HBO Max. And I saw a really interesting figure. As I've brought up before, I'm in the Comic Book Cast Facebook group, and Armin posted something really interesting in there. That according to Samba, 2.8 million people watched The Suicide Squad on HBO Max this weekend. If every single one of them paid $10 to see it in theaters, the weekend gross would have been $54.5 million.
That's better.
That's a lot better.
Yeah. It's over double.
Yeah. That's not to take into consideration people who pirated it, because if you can access it online, it's a lot easier to then mass produce it online. You know, like it's not often you're going to see me going to bat for WB with DC movies because they have not earned that kind of faith and trust. But I think the box office conversation is a little unfair and a little disingenuous.
I agree, because I think it already reinforces like the opinions people had about the movie with the things we've already talked about, like the first movie not doing so hot and like the R rating. Then these people look at the box office after the movie already comes out, don't see a very high or record-breaking number, and are just like, oh, my suspicions are confirmed. Like, movie's not that great. So like, it's a tough spot to be in. I think word about the movie will travel like sooner or later that like, oh, you haven't seen Suicide Squad? It was actually pretty good. And then like people will be like, oh, okay, I can sit in my living room and watch it on HBO Max on a Thursday night. Like, why not? And then like it might gain more traction.
I also think that there's a whole other conversation to be had about who all is going to buy HBO Max, why, when, how, the branding of HBO Max, the marketing of it. There's all kinds of conversations to unpack there. And there's a conversation that I want to have at some point with more people who are a part of this network, because ever since the pandemic started, that has been a mainstay conversation we have been having about like the future of movie theaters, the future of movies, what is going to happen, and the way that Hollywood is terrible at learning the right reasons, for stuff. Devin, if you need to go take care of the kitchen shit, I can vamp and just talk about box office.
Back as soon as I can.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Homeboy got a mess in the kitchen. We've been talking about it. Anybody who's been listening long enough knows that there have been conversations having about like how this is going to affect movies and movie theaters and moving forward. And I personally think that the wrong lessons are going to be learned here, and that there's going to be instances of Suicide Squad didn't perform well, we can't do these kinds of movies anymore. Dune is going to bomb. Shang-Chi is going to bomb at this rate. And there's a whole lot of conversation to be had about how people are handling lockdown and all this stuff. It's not going to be enough. None of this is ever going to be enough. And in terms of like what to do right and where we're next to go, in terms like we're too far in the game now, and there has to be an actual game plan for how to fix this situation, and hoping that Hollywood doesn't look at Dune performing badly, as it will later this year, or looking at the way that Suicide Squad is performing badly at the box office. We're losing, like there's an outcome that is the writing on the wall for this sort of situation, and it is the studios learning the wrong lessons. And that never ends well for anybody. I would like to see more stories and more movies like this, regardless of its performance at the box office. And HBO Max doesn't have the kind of gas that Disney does, that it can just kind of put all of these different properties on the line, because it hasn't built up the good faith that things like the MCU have. So they aren't able to go like, okay, we have X amount of subscriptions that all kicked up and all picked up right around the time that The Mandalorian came out. The Peacemaker TV show is not going to bring in the Mandalorian number of box office, or Mandalorian number of subscriptions. I think that HBO Max going the route that it is with trying to make movies exclusively for the platform is equal parts intriguing, but also concerning that they may be skipping the theater circuit entirely. There's a lot on the line here for all of these franchises, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous about it. And that's all I have while I wait for Devin to come back. So while we wait for him, Indiana Jones month starts this week on TNAP Movie Club. If you want to check that out, we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark. We had a great conversation about it. So be sure to check that out and have a good time. It was the first time Devin ever saw Raiders. So he had a good time watching it. We had Spencer on for it. That was a really good time. Spencer was able to give some very interesting and intriguing insights as a very religious person that Spencer is, as well as a history buff and history major. He was able to provide a lot of really interesting context for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Had a lot of fun with that. And we're still waiting on Devin to come back. And I'm by myself. I picked a bad one for it to just be a 2-man team. In terms of ranking Suicide Squad, oh, there he is, right on time.
Cool. Thank you.
Just as I ran out of shit to say.
Awesome. Beautiful. I don't know what you were talking about, but I trust it was a valid opinion. Trust your opinions. And
well, I was just saying that studios often learn the wrong lessons, and that a poor performance from the Suicide Squad, inevitably, I think Dune is going to bomb. I think Shang-Chi is going to underperform worse than Black Widow did. And on top of the already very big problems that the Delta variant is going to provide us with, things might get even worse for the movie industry than they already are. That's pretty much the gist of what I was saying, while also
fair, appropriate,
getting tongue-tied, thinking too far ahead of myself, and recognizing that on a governmental and movie theater level, we need a better game plan because shit's about to get live. Devin, final thoughts and letter grade, my friend.
I thoroughly enjoyed the attention that James Gunn brought to the characters and the overall story, both as individuals and collectively in the movie. It means a lot to me as someone that appreciates that kind of attention, and I think it builds and makes a movie like this. I really don't have any gripes with the movie. I did think some parts dragged on just a little too long, but then those parts ended, and they were still interesting. I love the villain. I love the plot. I'm excited for the Peacemaker show. And I think that, like, being this enthusiastic about it is, like, I'm going to give the Suicide Squad, it's right in between A and A minus. It's more towards an A. It's more towards an A, but there's a part of me that's like, it's between A and A minus, but I'm leaning towards the A, so I'm going to give it the
A. Yeah, I think this might be my new favorite DC movie. The fact that it could do that without Batman, good job.
Yeah. It didn't lean on anything. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but you're exactly right. It leaned on the characters here, not on cameos, not even on universe building. And the latter one isn't necessarily a bad thing when you know how to do it. I really love this movie. Everything. It's like, I think one of my new favorite shots in a movie, like, ever has to be the beginning of Rick Flag and Peacemaker's fight being in the reflection of Peacemaker's helmet. And again, like he says in the movie, like, it's a beacon of freedom. We're literally seeing the reflection of patriotism and, like, nationalism. Like, and when I say patriotism, I mean on, like, a citizen level.
Yeah.
Of, like, I love what my country could be. I'm in service to the people, not to the government, versus the power of the state versus the power of the people being reflected, fighting inside of that beacon of hope. That kind of shit. I loved it. I love the motif and the continued theme and symbols that are carried out through the birds and the rats. I just love the color palette of this movie. It's edited really well. I really like the transitions.
Where, like, the fun title cards, like
the title cards, yeah, where it's like, you know, Jotunheim and spelled with the movie gets an A. Like I said, the only thing keeping it from an A+ is the fact that I think that the movie could have served to use the few members a little longer if they had not died as early as they did. But other than that, we're looking at an A for me.
I like this movie a lot, and I do think I'll watch it again. I think I'll wait a little bit. I don't know when it leaves HBO Max. I think it's like mid-September. But, like, I do plan on watching it again. And I don't know, putting closed captions on, turning the lights off, paying attention, looking for things I missed, like trying to find more examples of the symbolism we've talked about. And like, especially because the symbolism I've already noticed, I've enjoyed so much. I do feel like there's things that I missed or like could look into more and just have fun with it. So I'm happy we're on the same page about this movie.
Absolutely.
Not too often in DC. Well, never mind. Yeah, never mind. We feel pretty similarly about a lot of DC shit. But
I mean, yes and no. You know,
yes and no. Yeah, there's a little bit of some
I can admit the reasons why I like the things that you don't. I can admit that the things I like that you don't. You have a better reason for disliking them than I have for liking them. I'll even say it now. I like Suicide Squad 2016. Don't think it's great, but I like it.
There's redeeming parts to that first like hour 20.
I mean, I think there's good stuff throughout all of it. You know, I think that's a conversation for a different day. I'm sure eventually.
Yeah, we'll loop back around to the first.
Yeah,
one.
it'll end up on Movie Club eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, Devin, where can the lovely people find you, my guy?
Guys, you can find me on Twitter at DevinArmel1. You can follow me on Instagram at DevinJArmel. Jarod?
Yes.
Where are you located on the interwebs?
I like that. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon page. Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus who get Campus Life and Movie Club a week early. Case and Brion, the Waffle Wizard, Delta 9, Zach Knaus, Michael Armburst, and Jared the Light Sith.
Is that you?
No. It is that's the patron who used to have the Rickroll name.
Oh, gotcha.
They change it every month, and now instead of Jared the Dark Jedi, it's Jared spelled Jerrod, the Light Sith.
I like that. I like that someone's putting in the time.
Me too. I appreciate them very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to all of you guys for supporting us. Be sure to consider the $5 tier where you get access to the KNR Versus series, the TNAP Movie Club audio commentaries, and Heroic History 101. Check all that stuff out. Be sure to take a look at the student store link on the website where you get access to the TeePublic where you can get all manner of Nerd Academy merch and goodies. I'm waiting to see a picture of Devin in his sexy-ass new Nerd Academy tank top that he ordered.
I sent it to my house by accident, not where I was living in Norfolk. So, like, I still haven't worn it yet. It's sitting in my freaking basement waiting for me right now. I'm just so excited
to see you adorn it. You're going to look smoking hot, babe.
I'll put it on as soon as I get home.
I can't wait to see it. Yeah, do all that. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Do all the things. Thank you so very much for watching or listening or however you engage with us, goofy-ass nerds. And class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.